How many stars in the sky? So, as I begin the beginning of the story, I learn that a young boy is waking up, and of course, he's wondering how many stars in the sky. But I wonder why he's wondering about how many stars in the sky. Let's keep reading to find out. Mama was away that night, and I couldn't sleep. Mama knows all about the sun and the stars, but she was away, and I didn't want to wake Daddy. So I stared out the window, asking myself, how many stars in the sky? I could count so many just from my room. I leaned out the window and I could count even more. That was just gazing over the backyard. How many stars in the sky? So I noticed that the boy's dog is with him in the bed. So this tells me that this is probably the boy's bedroom and he's trying not to wake his father. And it looks like the dog is sitting there pretty quietly with him. I went outside with a pad and pencil. I started to count. I filled up one whole page of the pad, but there were lots of stars hidden behind the trees. The house blocked out even more. The street lamp was so bright, I couldn't see stars anywhere near it. How many stars in the sky? Now he's outside and he's counting how many stars in the sky. I wonder where is the best place to go if you want to count stars. Should we go in the daytime? Should we go at nighttime? Should we go where there's a lot of city lights? Should we go where maybe there's not so many lights all around? But let's keep reading to see if he finds the best place for him. I climbed high into my treehouse. I started at the Big Dipper and counted in a great circle all around the sky. I filled up page after page of the pad. But when I got back to the Dipper, it wasn't where I remembered it. I must have been out so long that the stars had moved. Old ones had set and new ones had risen. So he seems very interested and he seems very determined to count all of these stars. So then I read that he fills up page after page of counting stars. He had been out so long that the stars had moved. So I can only imagine why the boy is so interested. And I feel that sometimes when I'm working, I feel that way sometimes when I'm working on a project, very, very determined. I'll do whatever I have to finish it or make it look good. So let's keep reading. I climbed down from the treehouse and there was Daddy. I couldn't sleep, I said. I can't sleep either, he said. Your mama won't be back till tomorrow. I told him how I wanted to count all the stars in the sky. If your mama was here, Daddy said, I'd bet she'd know. Maybe you and I can find some place where it'll be easier to count them. So now they're talking to each other. So I can listen to what the characters are saying to help me learn a little bit more about them. Sometimes what the characters say to each other tells me about the person in the story. So we haven't met the mom yet, but we learn about her through the father. And I think of the questions that I have about the boy's mom as I read. Like I want to know, why does she know about the stars? Do the boy and his mom often count the stars together? So I'll keep reading and see if I can find any hints that'll help me out. My dog hopped in the truck with us and we drove into town. The streets were quiet, but lots of street lights were burning. We could see the bright city skyline in the distance. But listen, I read that the boy and his father are going into town. The boy's father said on page 28 that they could find some place where it'll be easier to count the stars. The text tells me that the city is bright with lots of street lights. So I wonder if they're going to be able to see the stars with all that light in the town. What do y'all think? Do you think they're going to be able to see stars with a whole bunch of light? I don't know. We'll see. Daddy and I counted 25 or 26 stars. He said he thought one of them was planet Jupiter. This isn't a good place to see stars, I said. It's not a bad place to count them, though, he said, but it's still too hard. Let's go where it'll be easier. All right, so it seems like this is not a good place. It might be too many lights. We drove into the city. The big clock by the tunnel said 2:45, but neither of us felt like going to sleep. Now the clock says 2:45, and the illustration shows that it's in the middle of the night. It's late, but neither the boy or his father feels like sleeping. This reminds me of how I feel when I'm very excited about something. So have you guys ever been excited about a birthday party that you know is coming up, or maybe a field trip that you have in class, or maybe you're going to see your best friend or your cousin tomorrow, and you toss and you turn all night, you can't sleep, you get all excited? I know that's how I feel sometimes when I have something very important or very exciting that I have coming up. We parked by Mama's office. There was a department store with brightly lit displays in every window. There were street lamps on every corner. There were dazzling neon signs. Headlights flashed from a steady stream of cars. Powerful searchlights beams from the roofs of the skyscrapers. As I read the words on this page, I try to picture what the writer describes. So when I read the words neons, headlights, and flash, I imagined bright lights all around. So I think that it'll be difficult to see stars with all those bright lights, because remember, stars don't come out in the daytime. So let's keep reading. And I couldn't see any stars at all. I counted exactly one, said Daddy. No, wait, he said. It's an airplane. Maybe the stars just don't want to be counted. So the illustration on this page shows city buildings with their lights. I can understand how the boy and his father do not see any stars in the sky. There's so many bright lights from the city, all these tall buildings and the illustrations, and they're probably also getting in the way of the view of this little boy. He probably can't see the sky very well. So this reminds me of how the boy's house blocked his view of the sky when he was in his backyard. So he's probably going to have to go somewhere that doesn't have that many buildings. We drove back through the tunnel. I was tired and I thought we were going home. But instead, Daddy drove us deep into the country. Maybe he's kind of getting frustrated, because it seems like the boy's tired and now he's going back to sleep. Maybe he's not as excited about it anymore. There weren't any cars, there weren't any streetlights, there weren't any houses, and even the moon had set. And I knew we could never count all the stars. No matter where I looked, new ones appeared every time I blinked my eyes. Daddy pointed up and above and showed me the Milky Way. The stars were so thick, I couldn't tell one from another. I can't either. I don't know how people can look in the sky and say the different stars, because they all look the same to me. But as the boy and his father arrived at each new place, I looked for the clues in the text to tell me whether they can see the stars. So here out in the country, the boy said that the stars appeared every time I blinked my eyes. This tells me that they must be in a place where they can see probably a lot of stars. We were much too tired to drive anymore, so we slept underneath the stars that night. So that tells me that even the dad was like, whoo, we've been running around all night. He couldn't even drive back home. So it got to be peaceful, because if the stars were loud or they were at a loud, noisy place, they probably wouldn't be able to sleep very well. So that's another clue that tells me, oh, they must be somewhere that is very peaceful and very dark. It was daylight when we woke. Daddy, I said, all those stars are always out there, even when we can't see them, right? Of course they are, he said. Can we try to count them again sometime? I asked. Any night you feel like it, he said. You, me, and Mama can all go out together. I could hardly wait to see Mama and tell her all about it. In a little while, we'd all be back home. But now, I was glad just to be standing there with Daddy, basking in the warmth of one star we could see. So a lot of the time has passed since the boy and his father has left their house, and I noticed that the boy can't see the stars anymore. So this must tell me that they're probably still in the same place, but it's no longer nighttime. So then the boy explains that even though they can't see the stars are always there. And that was the sun. After I read the last page, I think about questions I still have. I might read parts of the story again to help answer my questions. For example, is the boy happy at the end of the story, even though he wasn't able to count all the stars? Why is the boy so interested in counting the stars? And do the stars remind him of someone? And if I don't remember the answers to those certain questions, then I can always go back in the story and read those. So that is it for our reading lesson today. Thanks for watching.